Hey, everybody. How you doing, Travis?
I'm good. Good to see you again, brother.
Cool. Yeah, so here we are with Travis Keys doing a little Photoshop and photography chit-chat talk. Yeah.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I figure we do something a little different today instead of just like breaking down into the demonstrations. Try and do a little more inspiration of how it all comes together.
Perfect. And how are things in New York? Things are
Good.
warming up a bit?
Yeah, we were all over the place. A couple weeks ago it was 70 degrees, then it dropped down to the 20s. Like today is like in the 47. So you just don't know if you're coming or going at the moment. It's crazy.
LA's like that too, where it's
I know.
not that extreme.
I was out there a couple months ago, and I was out there I was out there in Palm Springs, and it was 96. And 2 weeks later, I was out there, and it was down to 47. I'm like, wow.
During the day?
In LA, it was 47. Yeah, during the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense. Yeah.
Not too long. It was a couple months ago.
Crazy times.
Yeah. Absolutely.
People are starting to come in. I see that
Nice.
Dave Ellison from the UK.
Awesome.
Here. Good to see you here.
And then we got Facebook people. So they have to do some OKO, right? They gotta if they
want. Yeah.
Want
so first, I just want to say welcome everybody. Where are you watching from? And then, as Travis says, please give StreamYard permission to show your name and profile pic on Facebook, so that I'll be able to credit you when you comment or ask questions. Underneath the live, you'll see StreamYard.com/Facebook. Just click the link. Give permissions. So yeah, don't be shy. Let us know where you're watching from.
Yeah, we want your questions. I love questions. Anything and everything.
Yeah, bring your questions.
No holds barred.
That's right. You can ask Travis Photoshop questions, Lightroom questions, photography questions.
Getting into it.
Don't get too personal.
All kinds of I don't care. It's all part of the process, right?
Hello, here we go. So
we got, Germany. Nice. Wow.
So we got Hannah from Belgrade. We got Nigel from Colorado. Good to see you here. And yep, Marcus from Germany.
On my bucket list. I haven't been there yet, but I want to make it.
Yeah, Europe's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. Good to see people here.
Love it.
A little bit more time. There we go.
Baltimore in the house.
Buzz from Baltimore. It's a nice sound to it.
Right? Buzz is just a cool name. I mean, how can you not like Buzz? You got Buzz Aldrin, Buzz Lightyear. Just cool.
Yeah.
Buzz is cool.
Okay, cool. Let us know where you're watching from, everybody. And don't be shy to let people know about this event too. So, grab the link, share it with your friends, post it in your timeline if you want. Yep. A little bit more and let you kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah. We'll check out all those wonderful pillows behind you.
That's right. We got the Lightroom. We got the Photoshop.
Little StreamYard. They're great.
Yep,
you take a nap on one yet?
Which one?
Have you taken a nap on one yet?
I think I put one behind my back once when I was doing a meeting or something. But
and they're functional as well as that, decorative.
Well, speaking of StreamYard, before while people are coming in, might as well give a nice shout out to StreamYard. So yeah, StreamYard makes all this possible. Multi-streaming app through your browser, professional but easy to use. I use it to stream to various Facebook groups, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and I believe you can also stream to Twitch. So it's a great for these type of interviews, presentations, showing your portfolio, some good sharing capabilities too. So here's a little intro video to StreamYard. So thanks, StreamYard. Oops, almost played it again.
Yeah. I was getting
more. Would you like to hear that song again?
No, I was going to Shazam it and play it later.
But yeah, StreamYard is pretty cool. And
what's amazing about it is the way you can set up everything. And what I love is because on most of the other ones, you can only stream to like one place or two places, but in StreamYard, you can stream to like multiple places, like 2 different YouTubes and LinkedIn and this, and that's what makes it so amazing.
Yeah, it is cool. And the people that run it, they Geej and Dan, who created it, They work also interlink with Hopin. So Hopin does these
Oh,
really good
that's right. They
conferences.
merged with Hopin. That a huge, great
And I
event.
saw this. I think
Yeah.
you turned me on to a Sony conference.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was part of Hopin.
When we, obviously with the COVID and all that, they had to find places to do these virtual conventions and events and all that stuff, and people were jumping into those massive. We could do different.
Pretty seamless, right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild that you can have different vendors and rooms and stages set up. It was very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will, without further ado, would you like
Wait,
to introduce
we're here for
yourself,
something, huh?
Travis?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I am Travis Keys, and we're going to have a little inspiration talk today. Is the one thing that I love is that in life I've done a lot of different things, and we're going to go into that. And once I found photography, it was just that was it. It saved my soul, and I love what I do. And if I can give back and talk to people and help them, maybe not turn down some of the wrong roads and find some inspiration, and and really kind of look at it in ways that some people don't look, because I mean, what it's all about is seeing and stuff like that. And what I love saying is, like, it's what you want it to be. If you want it to be personal and away from people, you can go shoot landscape. If you love people, you can go shoot events or portraits. It allows me to engage my different moods, which is wonderful. So it's amazing for me. And as I go through this, if anybody has any questions, I absolutely love questions. So feel free to throw out questions about anything and everything, process, or what motivated me, or it's something that even you, like, having trouble with, like, I don't know how to break into this, or what do I do in this situation. I love that kind of stuff. So please feel free to do that. I guess we jump into the sharing of the screen, right?
Yes. So let's see. Go over here. Yep.
Yeah, so this
Looks
is me. Travis Keys, finding your vibe. There was too many questions, too many ways we could have gone with this today. It's like pivoting into professional photography, or finding Photoshop or Lightroom or what inspiration. So I decided to kind of just jump into an overall, like, well, let's start with who am I? First of all, I'm a photographer. That's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm also an Adobe content creator. I create some of their tutorials on how to edit in Lightroom, and I'm also writing for their Adobe Academy, which they're launching the Lightroom Academy, and I'll be writing the business of photography for them. So there's a lot of articles coming out on that. I'm chairman of American Photographic Artists, which is a national organization of professional photographers, and we're out there building networking and webinars and giving professional photographers the best tools to succeed in their business. I'm a definite Sony advocate and Sony shooter. I am a foodie. I love food, and I love to travel. So those sort of what about. But now I'm going to talk about my strange journey into photography. So, as they say, I kissed a lot of frogs in my journey, and luckily photography turned out to be my princess. I started out very young, working in the film industry. And even before going to college, I worked on my first feature film, which was Vampire's Kiss with Nicolas Cage, which was a bizarre little film, and worked in through that. I went to NYU Film School, Tisch School of the Arts, worked in film and TV for a while, and then just kind of got burnt out. You never saw your friends or family, and you're working nonstop. And if you had a day off, you're doing your laundry or sleeping. And then, of course, I pivoted and changed careers totally. I did some bartending, and then actually I had some friends that were like, "Oh, let's open up a bar." And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And I opened up a nightclub in New York, which led into opening up multiple bars and nightclubs. And I found myself years later just absolutely miserable, never seeing friends or family. I was having panic attacks about going into work, and I walked away from it all. And I had no idea what I was going to do. Absolutely zero.
What were the names of the nightclubs?
Everything from Wax in New York and Wax in South Beach, Miami, to B3 to there was all these different stuff that I did in restaurants, and transitioned that, and I just walked away from it all. I actually remember sitting down with my mom and my stepfather at the time, and I kind of I sat there, and I didn't know what to do. I was just a broken man at that point, and I'm like, I put all my money into the last venture. I sold off everything, and if I walk from this, I have nothing. And they're like, I'll censor it though. F it. Walk away. Follow your passion. Your family will help. Get you through this. And I kind of took my time and not get roped back into that industry. And I started picking up a camera, and I started loving it. I just, like, every next day I would, like, try and plan like, oh, I'm going to go on a hike and shoot this, or I'm going to go shoot that. And then people started asking me, oh, can you shoot this? I'm like, of course I can. And then like looking on the web, like, how do you light a model, or how do you light food, or how do you do this? And I decided like, I'm going to go back to school. And I went to ICP, International Center of Photography, which was founded by the Magnum Group, Cornell Capra, and incredible school. And I did a year's study there. And that was it. From that point on, that was about 10 years ago now, I am absolutely in love with photography, and every day. So when I first started out, like a lot of people, I was just not confident in shooting people at all. And, I was not going to be that person that chimped on the back of a camera and like, let me look, so it came to me shooting abandoned spaces. And that's what I was first kind of known for, is like, it was this great subject, and I shot them like portraits. It's like, here's a space, I'm going to shoot this like almost like it was a person, and really kind of dive into these wonderful textures. And the thing is, you can set up there and shoot it over and over and over, and really hone your skill on something, and really test the light and the way it is. And to tell you the truth, like, I went to film school. I loved movies. I knew what cinematography was before even photography. Like, for me, it was all about light. So what I do in photography is really kind of cinematic. I love the way lights, create a mood, an atmosphere, and these spaces are incredible spaces. And now I'm over like trying to put myself in this danger. Like, this was up actually 4 flights, and you can see up and down through the floor.
The contrast of the up and down reminds me of some of the kind of surreal photo montage digital art I like to create.
You're doing such great composite stuff and surreal stuff, and adding the stuff like that, which I'm starting to get more into, because it's so great too. And that's the great thing about photography. You have all these people like, oh, don't edit. It's like, oh, I only shoot it, through camera. It's like, no, photography is for you to do what you want to do. Love it, enjoy it, make it your own. You're creating images, you're creating stuff. Unless you're a photojournalist, then don't mess with the photo. So, for me, it was like going all these ventures and finding places to shoot, and finding great things to shoot. Well, you know what? Single photos, you can take single photos, but then, if you're going to get serious about photography, you're trying to find things that work together and put them in a series. And that's for me, that was one of the hardest things to do, is like put a series together. And it's like, as people ask you, like, well, why do you shoot this? Well, because it looked nice. I wanted to take a picture of it. But then you start thinking about themes. And one of the things I saw in, these abandoned places, where everyone had these old TVs, and I fell in love with TVs, and I obviously grew up on television, and I told you I love cinema. So I started taking these photos of all of these old TVs that I found, which led into this getting published, this little series that I did on the golden age of television. And it was wonderful to find all of this, and really kind of, work on the light, work on my technique. And it was just these incredible places. And then years later, I went back to those same things. I'm like, all right, how do I turn those into more of a fine art thing? And I actually started doing composites like you do, of butterflies into these spaces, and taking this, really working on the colors and all of that to create these wonderful images of butterflies. And the next stage of this is actually taking real butterflies and mounting them onto these, which is going to happen. So, these just incredible spaces, and working with the light. And this is all, I do everything. It's funny because I do about, I would say maybe 80% of my work in Lightroom, and then the other 20% when I need to go and do composites and do some layers of that in Photoshop. So I am a huge fan of Lightroom. And probably, there's some things, like if it wasn't for Sony and their EVF early on, and if it wasn't for Lightroom, I might not be the photographer, because I did not enjoy the darkroom. It was not my thing, going into the darkroom. So shoot what you know, and then push far beyond. So as I told you, I worked in the bars and restaurants and stuff like that. So I knew those people. I knew the social situations in New York. So I actually kind of leveraged that to, people would hire to go and shoot some bars. And I would actually look for moments and get these moments in bars and events and nightclubs. And that led me to other things. So these images, this actually got picked up, and it was put into 50 of these portraits. I don't know why they chose this one, but they chose this, and it went into a boutique hotel in Chicago. And in 50 of the rooms, this image is hanging. So it's amazing how things come around, and that. And so we just took these, some of these were advertisements, some of these were event work, but I always looked for moments. And it doesn't matter where you are, look for the moments, because you might think like, oh, I'm just shooting a wedding, or I'm just shooting a night, an event or a children's party. The moments are there. They are there to shoot. You can pull out amazing images no matter where you are, and that's really up to you. Like this is, I love this image. when you get a bunch of chickens dancing in a nightclub. Doing the one thing I never want to do. And this is kind of funny that one thing I never wanted to shoot was any kind of paparazzi stuff. And early on, I got an offer to shoot for a media company that did a lot of online stuff and a lot of this, night parties in New York City. And I went out and shot. And a lot of times there was other photographers out there going for the shot. And, you'd have this red carpet, you'd have this stuff, people vying for one photo, 50 people saying, yo, this name or this celebrity's name. And I would look for moments that were away from other people, that everybody wasn't crowding, or try and grab the same person at the end of a red carpet and say, hey, do you mind if I shoot you over here? And I started getting these shots that nobody else was getting. And the PR company would contact me the next day and say, oh my God, do you got that there? Well, what can you do when we actually hire you to shoot in a studio or on location? Right. So a lot of these were, from events that led me to other things. When I got to shoot Bill Clinton, I was actually setting up the lights to shoot him for the Clinton Foundation. And he was leaning against this wall. I shot that. It wasn't even the setup. And this is the one they chose to shoot. So always look at your surroundings and what's happening.
Right.
So these wonderful moments led me into working with celebrities and working with stuff, and by doing something I didn't want to do led me into so much great stuff. One thing leads to another. And when I talk about that, I shot for a magazine. This one shot was an AMC exec. They wanted something for the magazine. They were doing something on women in the top women in their fields, and she was one of them. And I shot this for free. And they were kind of demanding, and I was getting a little upset about it, but I kind of, they kept expecting more and more and more, and of my time, and it was all free. And I'm like, I just did it. But you know what? What turned out later is AMC saw this photo, and they hired me to shoot about 15 of their executives at $1,000 an image for each executive to do their headshots. So right. Never, ever think like I'm above this or beyond this. Everything leads into something. So use every moment to really kind of just, leave them with an impression that is a great impression, and it'll lead to something else. And that led me into fashion work, working runways, working during New York Fashion Week, which was wonderful. Which, I got to do so many things. This is actually, do you remember Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is the inspiration. He actually cuts, Edward Jacomi cuts with 2 scissors in his hands. And this is during Fashion Week. This is the inspiration for Edward Scissorhands, this man right here, which was kind of fun. Yeah.
So there is a real Edward Scissorhands.
There is. And it's funny. When I first started shooting, I'm like, the last thing I ever wanted to do was shoot a wedding. I'm like, that's someone's most important day if I mess that up. And once you get confident in your skills, it's actually probably one of the funnest things I get to do, because everybody wants their photo taken. Everybody's done up in makeup. Everybody looks great. And I get to do some incredible stuff. I was flown for a week to the south of France, and we shot this in an abandoned castle. There was, fireworks. We were at a chateau for a week with parties. There were 4 days of parties. And it was funny because the first party, everybody got so trashed that the next 3 days, they were hung over for the wedding. And this was, we actually went to Iceland. We climbed a glacier, rappelled down into this ice cave, and shot this photo. Obviously we changed on location, not while she was climbing, but this was shot in a glacier ice cave. Wow. And this was the chateau in the south of France, and her dress was delivered. It was a vintage dress, and I thought it was a coffin. It was in the main room. I'm like, why is there a coffin in the room? It was actually it forklifted in with the dress. And this, you can create situations. I love light in cinema. That is actually not the sun. That is a Pro Photo B1 that I set down there with some yellow filters, and I flashed that as they were going out to make it look like the sun. So, and it's one of their favorite shots that I did. But, so if you learn the craft, you can light and do some really kind of fun and different stuff. And this was the fireworks at the wedding, which was insane to be here. I'm like, it's like, the other day I was at a bar, and I went to a friend's party, and I didn't know anyone there. And I'm sitting there, and the young Travis in me is like, oh, I don't know, should I just leave? Like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I took out my camera. I started shooting people. Suddenly I'm leaving with friends, having a great time. The camera for me is that key that opens up so many doors to so many experiences that I might not let myself ever have. And I've gotten to meet amazing people, travel to amazing places. So the camera for me I can't tell you. It's how I found my vibe. So let's kind of talk about finding my vibe. Now at this point, I have really fully embraced Photoshop and Lightroom, and love the process of it. If you told me, 10 years ago when I started, I would ever be working with Adobe and, and all these great people, I would have laughed, because Adobe I thought was the hardest program. And I thought there's no possible way that I'm going to learn this program. And to be honest with you, 10 years later, I'm quite good at it. I feel like I still only know 10% of the program.
And I was gonna say, and Barbara says, excellent eye for grabbing the moments. Wow.
Thank you. And, and it's there. It's that's the main thing. Is like, it's when I'm talking to people about photography, it's like there are two circles that you have. And when you first start, this first circle is just your creative passion to capture a moment or something that interests you. And then you get serious about photography. And what happens is this second circle gets introduced. And that second circle is the technical. It's like, oh my God, what does ISO do? What does aperture do? What is shutter speed? And you're like, oh, if I speed up my shutter speed or slow down my shutter speed, what does that exactly do? And does it freeze motion? And then how it affects, the light on transient. And it's, it's funny is those three things, we get worried about all these digital cameras. If you understand ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, it's the same on every camera, and you should be able to use every camera out there basically. So it's not until you get so good and proficient at that circle of the technical that you forget about that one, and then you can resync the creative. And it takes a while to work through that. And it's a constant everyday kind of battle. And it's there's two ways you can be. You can be an enthusiast amateur, or you can, just be a point and shoot, or you can be a professional. And if you're going to be a professional, you push yourself every day to really kind of, unlock new tools. And, for me, now that I can go in and see the lighting in a nightclub and understand it's not just about the person or how I'm lighting them, it's the mood I'm creating. It's what's in the background, what are the lines in the background, and, the composition and all of that. The more you do it, then the 10,000 hour rule is so important, because you start instinctually muscle memory doing this. And you understand that when you're shooting, when I walked into this room to shoot this, we knew we were going to do a vintage shoot. We were doing some stuff with Victrola, the old record players that were coming back and kind of being re-released, looking like old record players, but we still had, that vintage look. I saw the blinds on the floor, and I knew I'm setting up a shot, and there's actually 3 different lights on her to get this shot, but it kind of just looks like, blinds coming through. And no one realized how much lighting goes into this one shot just to get that done. And then there's playing with smoke and light, and I love that cinematic look. He was amazing. Cameron Boyce, who was in all the grown-up movies and stuff like that. I actually shot this with him for a magazine a month before he passed away, and he was the nicest person. And
who is this?
Cameron Boyce. And he was a Nickelodeon star. He was in the Growing Up movies. He was in The Wizard of Waverly and a bunch of things like that. We actually just walked into the middle of, I had a person with a light. I walked in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and I'm like, you feel like doing this? He's like, absolutely. So we went and ran down Fifth Avenue as this was happening. And this was the shot that was used in the magazine.
Having fun in New York. I like that, right?
Yeah, it's just, I love motion and light, and, using dancers in the subways of New York. This is when you're finding your vibe. Really just find something you love, whether it be landscapes, whether it be pets, whether it be babies, whether it be dancers, and just have fun with it. And the great thing is you can experiment with so many wonderful things. It's like different lenses, how they compress, and using a light. This is just one light off to the side. You get to these this is all street light. I saw the way the light was coming from a window of this shop. I saw all the light in the background, and I had them stand there. This is just natural light. And seeing light and seeing what's there, you can do amazing things. So just always look, and what the great thing is, just have an iPhone, and pop it up and see how it looks. And if it looks great, then break out your DSLR or mirrorless and continue to shoot, but it's understanding your light is an incredible thing. Yeah, nice. You grab these great moments and get in different angles. Once the thing is, we get too rushed when we're shooting, and when we're shooting, it's like we want to jump in there and just get the picture. But you know what? Take your time, slow down a little bit, go from different angles. Your first instinct may be the best, but also it may not be. So try it from a different angle. Try it from different things. Yeah.
So now with this one, you most likely took it in color, but did you kind of have a vision of it being black and white, or is that something you arrived at later by experimentation?
It's funny because actually what happened was there was a cooler in this picture. It wasn't just not a clean shot. And I knew that when she's a DJ, and we were out in the Hamptons, and did an impromptu shoot at this big pink party, and she was just having fun with it, walking and and this dress flowing, and I just got low and got this, and I photoshopped out the coolers and other stuff, and kind of just put it in here, and it just worked better with the black and white because of the flag, the umbrellas and all of that. And yeah, I'm one of those people that's I there's very few pet peeves I have, but when someone says, oh, should this be in black, white, or color? I'm like, well, that's up to you, because most of the time people are going to be 50-50, some 50% like black and white, 50% like color. And as an artist, you really have to kind of jump in and make that decision yourself, and really commit to it.
And in regards to black and white, do you tend to utilize presets you've created in Lightroom, or do you like to start kind of fresh and just tweak it until you get the right kind of balance of tonal range?
No, that's a great question. I think there's so many different little cool things in Lightroom now, from their presets to their camera. They have this modern and all these basic things on the side. It's good to go through those and just to see where those take you for ideas, because they might see something pop in a way that, like, oh, I didn't even think of that. So just kind of just for experiments. It's like the greatest thing about Lightroom is it's you can do everything and just hit a button and it's back to normal. It's not destroying your file. It's not doing anything. You can play and stretch and bend sliders and experiment and have fun with it. I tend to have a very precise way I edit now. I'm very kind of I do the same things every time. And if we want to, after this, I can show a quick edit of what I do in Lightroom, and we can break that down quickly, which would be great. So now I shoot a lot of I work a lot with MSNBC, with Mika Brzezinski, and the people over there. I've got recently,
quick question, Bobby. Good to see you here, Bobby Thompson. So Bobby's asking, are you thinking black and white versus color at the moment of capture or when editing? So it's kind of similar to my question.
No, that's a very good question. I think there are a lot of people that shoot black and white that think and that's in their brain and they're wired that way. I tend to do it in post and know that sometimes the color is just not working. And a lot of times I'll go to black and white when I just don't think the skin tones look right, or this looks right, or if the color is distracting, and the color, but I like color, but I naturally just normally shoot color. I think it's a good thing if you have a camera that will go into black and white and it forces yourself to look at the way light hits things and in a different way when you pull that out. So when you can look in through the EVF and the viewfinder and just see black and white, it's a cool way to really force yourself to see black and white in a way that you don't normally do, because we're so used to looking at everything in color and looking at our iPhones in color. But when you can put on that filter or that emulation, Fuji has one of the best. I'm a Sony shooter, but Fuji's the Arcos and their JPEG emulation is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It looks like real film. I have a medium format Fuji digital that I sometimes break out, and just for the black and white on that to see how things go. It's fun to do that, and I think it's a good exercise to because we just go out and shoot, but it's also a great exercise to get out there and force yourself to shoot in black and white and see in black and white, because it really makes you appreciate light in a different way. Luckily, there are very few. I've gotten to shoot a lot of celebrities. When I got to shoot, Paul McCartney and Bruce Springsteen, that's suddenly like I was just like, oh my gosh, it kind of blew me away. And this one for me was instantly a black and white shot. I felt it even when I took it. This is Joe Jonas, the Jonas Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just had that feel. The length, the angle. It was a black and white shot, and black and white just it has that air of being, it removes the distractions. It gives it this artistic look. I'm a big fan of black and white. And when you use it right, it's just gorgeous.
Sure.
This one was funny. I got to be on this for 2 days. And normally the artists don't really want you shooting rehearsals because they're not in their costumes. They're not all made up. And she was up on stage and just rehearsing for the next day. And I just saw her reflection in the piano. And I'm like, I got to get this shot. So I kind of snuck up. I put my camera right in front of there. I took the picture, smiled at her, and she goes, "Where's that going?" I'm like, "I don't know yet, but I had to take it. And I wanted to let you know my last name is Keys too." And she just kind of smiled at me and gives me the thumbs up and kept playing. I'm like, that's good.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was a really fun moment. Now,
what was it say? But I don't have.
Yeah, but you don't. But I don't have anyone to photograph. I know I went right by that. So many times, people are like, oh, I don't have a subject. I don't have this. I shoot myself a lot. And actually, early on in my days, I still have her somewhere in storage or here. I bought a dummy, a mannequin off of Amazon, so I could practice lighting. So I had this, this full dummy, and the first month I had it, I scared myself every time I walked into a room because scared me every single time. But I would practice lighting on that, and then I just started shooting myself. And then because I love cinema and I love Photoshop, that's when I started really playing with all these different things of I created those flames in the goggles. I just shot myself pretty clean, and I'm like, oh, fire and feathers. So like, why not? This was actually my first year in our first year all together, collective in quarantine. My birthday party by myself. I decided I'm going to throw myself a quarantine birthday party. So this is my quarantine birthday party, all of myself celebrating there, and as you can really kind of have fun and play with Photoshop, and this is how I felt during that time is like so we're putting all this this happy face, but below that happy face I was scared in COVID. It's like
I think I remember seeing these in the Photoshop and Lightroom group too.
Yeah, I put a couple of these up. Well, no, I'd always post them, and you're like, oh, share these here. I'm like, oh yeah, why didn't I share them there? I love that group.
Yeah.
So I put them up in there, and this is we get to play with ourselves, and as an artist, you can sit there and you don't need much room to shoot this. I have a little personal digital studio down in my office where I shoot a lot of this, and it's probably 10 feet by 10 feet, and that's where I do a lot of these shots, and this one was recent. Actually, these were I could have done this a lot easier, shot each camera, but I actually put the cameras up on light stands, and each camera is actually there, and I just photoshopped out the light stands.
So what's the motif or kind of theme with the kind of melting of the cameras?
You know what? I shot it clean, and then I just kind of wanted. I don't know. I just wanted to play.
There's a nice texture
it's
to it.
Always trying to push myself to do things and create different things that I didn't think of before. Before it was just to put myself in the frame, and then I decided to put my fingers up and frame the frame because I'm a photographer. And then I said, well, why don't we try something fun with the cameras when they're up there and try and make them look like they're melting and stuff like that. So it's each one is like I have different versions and sometimes I put this one up, and sometimes I put the non-melty up, and it's just fun to play with, and it doesn't take much.
Reminds me of that Peter Gabriel album cover.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Gabriel.
And I think you have a question here.
Yeah, I love it.
So Nigel says, you're raising an interesting point, a question I've been asked many times. When does an image change from a photograph into digital art?
It's obviously it's I think if you say image, that's what it is. And when you say a journalistic photograph or of something that is supposed to be documenting reality, that is one thing. And this comes with journalism, that pre-prescribed notion that you're not going to change things in it. And I know like Steve McCurry's gotten in trouble for photoshopping out little things that existed in the picture and stuff like that. I am an artist, first and foremost. Photography for me is creating an image. Like I said, I love, I grew up on Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all those things. I love fantasy, and I always wanted to be in those worlds. And for me to kind of create those in a photo, I make no excuses that I use Photoshop. I'm out there. I work with Adobe. I love what I do. But it's one thing now. Everybody kind of thinks things are fake. I was talking with Nicholas Brandt, who's a photographer that did these huge installations of his photos in Africa of like an animal in their natural habitat, and then the slums or that what's the world around it that it had become. And people are like, oh, do you just Photoshop that in? And he's like, no, I didn't. And it's funny. He was saying he didn't want to have behind the scenes footage and all that released, but he had to release it because people didn't believe he actually did those installations and all that in person. So he had to show this behind the scenes. So I think we're in a day and age where people disbelieve what they're seeing but also admire what they're seeing. So it's a very strange world we're living right now in terms of what is real, what's not real. But I'm a firm believer, create what you feel, and don't lie about it. Don't, oh, I did this all in camera. No, if you didn't, it's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, cool.
It was funny. These two images. I do a lot of social media there, and I said I have a Bushman's cap and I have an astronaut helmet. Which one do you want to see me do a picture of? And they said the Bushman's, but I wanted to shoot the astronaut anyway. So that's me in an astronaut helmet shot. Literally, I had I installed a 4K projector in theater in my house during COVID so I could watch movies. And I projected the stars behind me and lit it up from front and had some fun with that. This is obviously me again, having fun dressing up in an abandoned penitentiary and playing all the prisoner parts. There we go again, visiting myself in prison, the main thing is you have to have fun. And whether you're a professional or not, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to work and someone said, wow, you were the best photographer. I had so much fun working with you. They hadn't seen an image yet. It was the enthusiasm it came with, the professionalism, and I made it fun. If you're not having fun, then they're not going to have fun. And it's like, it's so important to love what you're doing. And now, no matter where I am, if I'm just going to California and seeing, I saw her on the boardwalk, in Venice, and I'm like, hey, take some photos. Took some great photos. I play with different materials and lighting. It's like I bought this at a party store, like foil. Like this was actually it was a tablecloth, a foil tablecloth. Let's get in it and push it and see how the light bends. Play with things. See how the water reflects on something. This was out the Salton Sea at Bombay Beach, and see the reflection. It was just so peaceful. Play with things. See the lights, the shadows. It's all about the light.
So this makes me. Some of these make me want to ask. Have you ever gone and photographed Burning Man?
You know what? I haven't. And I get that question so many times. A, because I like the music, and B, I used to own nightclubs, but I have not made it to Burning Man. It seems like such an ordeal to get tickets and, the lotteries and staying out. I'm not a big tent person.
Seems like you would take
I would want it like a big camper, and it's a very expensive venture to do it that way. So right. I haven't done it yet, but I would love to. Sure. This is just, taking a model out and playing at Coney Beach under the, thing. So you can always play with wonderful things. I saw him when I was out with the model, just standing with his family. I'm like, come over here. And I put him in the light and shot him. He was a stranger. I'd never met him. And he actually turned out to be a music guy. And he's emailed me, and we've become Instagram friends. And he wants me to shoot some stuff for him. So I mean, it's amazing what the world you can do. I was at a party and I saw this American flag on the 4th of July. So I kept pulling people over and shooting them in front of the flag on this one. It's like, no matter where you are, look for what's there and have fun with it. It's like, you don't always have to be on a job, and always push yourself to do different things. And, go to the local carnivals, the way the sun sets, see the way the light, plays, and people's expressions at a carnival. There's, all this is always just, me having fun, seeing how the lights were playing with someone. Here was, at the same carnival, I love the way the neon is hitting these people, natural light, and the way it almost looks like two pictures put together. But it's you have to be out there and let yourself see it. This was at another party I was at. There was a red light to a staircase down. I'm like, I'm going to shoot all my portraits right here and make some cool portraits. So look at your surroundings. It's like it's funny because I think I have a picture here. Oh, I thought I had it here. I'll show you this picture I took. I think it's in here. Hopefully.
Going back in time.
I know, right? It's probably the one picture I don't have up here that I thought I put in. Yeah, I must have not put it here. This one. So I took this the other day, and the younger me would have just taken a picture of these two people anywhere, but I saw she was wearing white. I saw the other one was in black, and I saw this part of the wall which was white and black, and I juxtaposition of putting them in these different places. It's like, you can move people, you can look for the background. Don't just take that first instinct of just taking a snapshot. Really bend it to what you want. And the great thing about you can do is, no matter what situation, and you can actually walk away with pictures that you want. So take some for yourself, take some for the client, and try and make it work. It's a beautiful thing. Right. Well, that brings us to sort of that part of it, and I want to know if anyone has questions or what I talk about, or
that's all the images, because I'm getting into it.
I know I can go to my website and obviously bring up a ton more, which is some fun stuff, and show some black and whites and stuff like that. If you want to see that while we're talking and waiting for some questions, I can bring that up.
Well, so the first thing I was going to say is, next time you come to LA, you got to get in touch. We got to do either lunch or dinner.
I would love to. Absolutely love to.
I could have you do some creative portraits of me. I could rebrand myself or something,
That's what I kind of specialize in branding and social media branding and for companies and celebrities and influencers and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'll go to sharing.
Sure. And then I'll pop it back up.
Yep. Yeah, let's bring up this one. Right here.
And a question I have while you're doing that is, of all the different things you do like to take photographs of, what is it that you enjoy the most?
What I'm going to do tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
I love the excitement of what's coming next. I've been so pleasantly surprised with where photography has taken me that a lot of times I'm like, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. I'm like, I'm actually in this room with these people or in this place or this location. I'm always so pleasantly surprised at where it takes
one thing I was surprised I did not see, and I'm not sure I'm going to see it on your website either. You said you were a foodie, but where are the food photographs?
I know it's funny. I do some of that, but I don't consider, I do take a lot of food shots, but I'm not a food photographer, and that is such a specialized thing that I don't. That's not my realm. I do it, but it's not where I make my money. And and those food photographers, I don't want to pretend to be one because they're that's a whole different ball game. That's
you
really
can have fun with it sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm sure on my Instagram I have some wonderful food shots, and I've certainly been around a lot of wonderful chefs and stuff like that. Let's see what I have here. So I was actually hired to go over to Uganda to shoot a team that was teaching doctors and all kinds of different workers to deal with trauma from people that were in wartime or raped and gone through unbelievable stuff. And I took several days to travel around and.
Can I interrupt before you jump into that, though? Just that someone has a question. Gotham has a question.
Yeah.
How did taking the time to go back to school affect your work?
Schools, I don't know if I would. That's a big question, and it's a great question. Having gone back to school much older and having had 2 successful careers under my belt, going back to school, you find a lot of people that are it's flights of fancy that are school is training you to be in school almost. It's like I went back there and had a lot of people. I had one teacher that was like, "Oh, your work is very Bertinsky." And I'm like, "Oh, I like his work." And like, "No, I don't mean that in a positive way. I mean, he doesn't take social responsibility. His stuff is too perfect and he doesn't take social responsibility." I'm like, "What? What are you like?" I actually got criticized for being too technically perfect on some of my photos. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There was one time I came into class and I took this amazing photo at the backtrack of Saratoga, and the horse is raising up and there's fog in the background and geese flying. And it's just like this epic photo. And the whole half hour was a talk about the unethical treatment of horses, and it had nothing to do with my photography. And I just like, there were moments like, I'm really kind of upset that I'm here and this is what I'm dealing with. And the funny thing is once I left, I had a bunch of the teachers ask me to assist or work with them. And then about a year later, all the students that kind of criticized what I was doing were asking me for jobs. You have to stick to your guns. You have to find your vibe and your tribe. And it's what's so important is that you really believe in what you do and find that core group of people that are going to give you honest feedback. And, as artists, one of the hardest things to do is take feedback. And we love what we do and we get too attached to it because the problem is we have emotion attached to why we took that picture. And when someone sees it, none of that emotion is attached. So we have to understand that.
And one thing I would say that I've seen throughout the years running these groups, especially the Facebook Photoshop photography focused groups, is the fact that it always seems like the people who are the most critical don't put out the work. It's that simple. It's like a lot of times
that's my first thing.
Something
like when you see this someone giving criticism of someone's thing, I'm like, the first thing you do is go look at their photos and say, is this someone I want to take advice from?
And then you don't see any of their work. They're not showing their work. They're not doing the work.
Yeah. So it's so funny so I was lucky. I went over there and I sat on this was a place called Wells of Hope, and all these children, their parents were either on death row or had been executed, had no family to take them in. So they were in this place where they were given the boys lived in one, little room with bunk beds, and the girls living in another. And they ate the same thing every day, a giant pot of like this porridge. And it was just, it was beautiful because they met with such song, and it was an amazing experience, but also it kind of wrecked me for a long time. And I didn't know what to do with the photos. And I took a lot of different photos. And then I decided I'm just going to show the kids in their pure essence. So this is sort of, my image to them. And, it's like, the kid, he's got a fly on him, and it's just like, has these eyes, and, they were just beautiful, beautiful, kids. And it took me a long time to decide it was going to be black and white, that the skin tones were working, that I wanted to remove all distractions. And it was totally just a portrait piece to show them and their emotions and who they were. It's one of my favorite pieces, just working with it. And it's such a special place over there. And Uganda over here, it was so different because, they're not used to having visitors and stuff like that. So when I went over here, they just wanted to touch the hair on my arm because, they don't have a lot of hair on their arm. I was this white person that they didn't really see or know. And when I went on safari, all the kids there are like money, money, sweet, sweets, because they're so used to seeing tourists and stuff like that. So it was such a huge difference in experience. And a beautiful one that, this one was so special to me, with these kids and stuff like that. And they just, were amazing. Their personalities shine through, and I got to have fun with them. But, at this age, you have kids taking care of kids. And that's what unbelievable. Like, this kid was making sure that he was holding on to his sister and walking them. And it kind of floored me that they were like young adults at certain points. It's, and this is the school that they had. You see all these wonderful, wonderful faces. So for me, that's kind of magical.
Very.
And I get to play, with all different type of things. This was a series I was commissioned to shoot for the 76ers, and they were moving their practice facility from Philly into Camden, New Jersey, and they wanted to shoot the local people and show that the neighborhoods and the people that would be affected by bringing money and commerce in. And what's funny is you see this one picture here of this person. You can see I had heard about that tattoos and teardrops, and you can see he has 3 on one side and 2 on the other. And it wasn't until really after that I realized, that means you killed people or served time in prison. So I was talking to this guy, and we're taking photos, and we hear a little siren go off, and it's the police. And I'm like, oh geez. And the police are like, come over here. I'm like, and he's like, he kind of looks at me. I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to them because they got guns. And he kind of looks at me dead in the eye, and he pulls up his shirt a little bit. He goes, I got a gun too. I'm like, oh God, what have I gotten myself into? Yeah. And I'm like, and I looked at him. I'm like, and this is, you got to think on your feet. And photography is not about just, it's about connecting with people. And I looked at him. I go, yeah, but I trust you with yours. And he looked at me, he smiled. He's like, yeah. And he loved me for that. But I went over and took a portrait of the police, which was this one. And then I went back to shooting and talking with him. But these are the 2 cops that came up to me and rolled up to me. And it's like, what are you doing here? So it was an unbelievable experience to shoot these people. And where I never shot people in my early career, now it's what I love, connecting with people and getting those emotions and getting something that really means something. And we have junkies here, we have all kinds of different people, and just having those moments. So portraiture for me is something I absolutely love doing now. That wasn't something that I did early on. So we have questions.
I was going to say, what about putting a book together of your photographs?
I've thought about it, and the great thing about books is that they're labors of love. A lot of times I've had, amazing photographers that have done books, and you do all this work and you don't make a lot of money on it, and they're worth, it's a labor of love. It's so one day, hopefully, that I will be able to put one of those together, but it's definitely something that you have to want to do. And here's, it's just amazing stuff that I get to do, like the wedding stuff that is very different, and a lot of people say, oh, you should shoot this or that, and there's a lot of different ways you can specialize in something and then you get known for it, or you can kind of leave yourself a hybrid where you shoot several different things, and everybody tells you what you should do, but you have to trust your heart and what makes you happy.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see. I want to know anybody out there that what level you're at shooting at. If you have any questions, like getting in the business, or if there's anything that you have that you'd want an answer on. I'm an open book. So if you're like, you get a chance here to talk to someone that's put in some hours, and if you have a question out there, I would love to answer it. So feel free, as we're kind of just talking here towards the end, to get it in before it's over.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let's see what other fun stuff I have here. So this is some of what I do now. Some of this you saw, but you know, I when it's color, I believe in color. Like you can see here, you know, like I play with reds, I play with, yeah, oh yeah. So when it's color, I love playing with color and it being very deliberate. So you can see I've used red gels in here, and then it's about the red seat he's in, and you know, so the color for me is a very important thing.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, any questions? Let us know. Let Travis know. What happened to him with the is that the wine?
So yeah, so this guy is one of the youngest sommeliers, and I'm like, he was wearing a white shirt. I'm like, do you mind like throwing that on yourself? And so we did a bunch of shots where he's drinking it, it's pouring on him, and there's a series of these shots, but he just went all in, and it was so much fun.
Do you mind pouring the wine all over yourself?
He committed to. Had the bottle over his head, and it was pouring down and missing his mouth, and it was just so much fun. It was absolutely just cool. A joy to shoot, you know. So it's, you know, we get these in between moments. You know, this is in between shots where she was just lighting a cigarette, and I loved it so much. And then we went back to shooting the fashion shots, you know. And then you have these, you know, great moments. You know, it's just such a fun. I can't believe I get to play, and this is how I get to make a living, you know, creating this kind of stuff. It's just. I can't imagine doing anything else, and I feel so blessed to be able to do it and help people along the way.
It's nice that you made that choice in your life to move on from the nightclub reality, which sounded very draining to
yeah, you know, and it's one of those things, you know, God, if people ask me, would you ever go back to nightclubs, and that gives me a panic attack even thinking of it. But I have to say, I can comfortably say I would never change anything, because I would not be the photographer or understand light or moments that I do now because of all the stuff that I did go through. You know, if I didn't go through all that, I wouldn't be the same artist that I am now. And that's, you know, we have to go through the journey.
Bobby has a good question. He says,
yeah,
what would be your dream project?
Oh boy. It's a good question. I love doing so many different things that just the act of having a camera, but I'm a big fan of creating cinematic moments. So, you know, the more lights and toys I get to play with and bigger sets and stuff like that, I'm a big fan. I do shoot on some movies and stuff like that behind the scenes on film sets, which is a lot of fun, because they build the sets and they light it up for you, and they all costumes and that. Those are really fun jobs to have. It's a lot of hours, but it's a lot of fun to have. I need to have the diversity in my life. I want to travel. I want to shoot people. I want to, and I think that's, you know, it's like if you had to pigeonhole yourself as any type of photographer, I'm definitely a portrait photographer. But I think if, you know, I say travel photographer, it's almost like travel photographers get to shoot food. They get to travel. They get to, you know, try different places and hotels and landscapes. And like, I'm sort of a travel photographer. I get to shoot everything that way.
It'd be nice to get like, switch over. Get nice to be sponsored by somebody where they pay for your travel expenses, and you could stay at a nice hotel and not have to worry about all that, and just
get Emirates, you know, their first class, and you know, Marriott are a huge, you know, hotel chain, so you can be everywhere. Yeah, and you know, it's like the main thing is to find the colors and the textures and the light, and you know, I feel blessed that I've seen the Northern Lights twice. You know, Norway was absolutely gorgeous. I went over there for 10 days, and the Northern Lights didn't come out once until 6 hours prior to us leaving. Those 6 hours were very special. And you know, we got to see these Northern Lights. I got to see it once in Norway and once in Iceland, which was wonderful. And you know, it's just the camera, so you can do so many amazing things. And even if you don't have one of these fancy, you know, DSLRs or mirrorless, I got to tell you, like, you know, on my iPhone 13, and right now I'm doing a project where I'm shooting on the Samsung 22 Ultra and the iPhone and my Sony to compare images. And I got to tell you, I am so impressed on the way these camera phones shoot that they always say the best camera is the one you have in your pocket. And boy, those fit in your pocket and go anywhere. And you can do some absolutely incredible shots on these phones now.
And I've seen some really nice work by Russell Brown, where he's using the iPhone for.
Yeah, it's incredible what you can do, and the video on the iPhone is just stellar. I kind of play it, and I'm like, it shouldn't look that good. It shouldn't look that good.
I was gonna say, I've been seeing some very good shows on, say, Netflix from Norway and Iceland, and
Yeah,
of course
yeah.
bringing their sensibility and cinematography into things, and it's quite refreshing and different. And a lot of the music is very much my style, like ambient music. So
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of those shows. Yeah,
That's the one thing I like about Netflix is they're picking up shows from all over the place, and
yep,
and
and open to independent.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's my gig. That's what I do. And I know obviously if anybody has follow-up questions, too shy to ask here, I think Andrew's going to put up my information that you can reach out anytime. And if you're interested in APA and the community that we build of networking and helping professional photographers, please reach out to us. We have chapters all over the U.S. and we're there to help people.
All right, so let me share that with everybody. So first is you can find Travis at traviswkeys.com, as you just saw his website. And then on Instagram,
oh yeah,
Instagram.com, TWKeys.
I try and be very active on Instagram.
Cool. And then the organization is newyork.apanational.org.
Yeah.
And do they have different divisions in the different states like that?
So APA, it's a national organization, but when you sign up, you get assigned a local chapter. That'll be your chapter, and we have all different levels from $50 up to pro and leader levels. Each one comes with different benefits and stuff like that. But you can get in at $50 a year, and we do everything from meetups to, like, I just ran one with a friend of mine, Ash, a fellow board member. We got a couple classically trained dancers, and we went out in the streets of New York and did a bunch of different setups and shot on the streets of New York with dancers. It was amazing. And we do everything from educational stuff to taxes or portfolio reviews to all working with different lighting equipment to cameras to networking
you
stuff.
Get discounts for different things.
Member discounts from B&H. Well, no, we use Adorama and Apple discounts and from hotel discounts. But we're also one of the leading advocates for photographers' rights. I was just up in Albany the other day fighting for freelancers and free, which is a bill that ensures that photographers and freelancers get paid within 30 days. Which, as we know, a lot of us.
I've been through that.
I've worked some big companies, especially the ones that I don't want to name because they're big. But that's also the problem is we're scared to name them because we won't work, and they tend to say, oh, it'll be net 60 or 90 days, and it's like they have all the money and we can't really say no. So the law is to ensure that you get paid within 30 days, and there are penalties if they don't pay. So it's now a law in New York City, but now we're expanding to hopefully New York State and across the country.
I had some painful experiences of that myself in the past.
Yeah. So we're out there fighting for photographers and all that, and education, and giving you the tools to be the best professional you can be, and that's what's so important to us. Cool. And also, it's a bunch of great people. I've made lifelong friends and connections.
And do you ever go and attend or speak for another chapter's meetings sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very active on the national level, and it's funny because when COVID started, we were so used to doing in-person events that we had to just like you are right here, we had to figure out, well, how do we still stay relevant and talk to our members? And I was one of the very first people to kind of jump on Zoom and do these Zoom webinars and meetups and all this stuff, and I was so good at it, I would have to help every other chapter get them launched up and launch.
It must be an LA chapter, right?
Oh yeah, LA is one of the biggest chapters. It is the largest chapter besides New York.
And would it be similar? Would it be la.apanational.org?
I believe that. Well, the easy thing is everything's under the moniker of apanational.org. Right, so from there you can find pretty much everything.
Sure.
So it's right there, and we're updating the websites, and we do everything from source books and hire a pro so people can find you as a photographer and listing there. And so there's a lot of advocacy and networking and benefits and education that's involved in it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Quite the wonderful ride through your world to see all the different.
Well, hopefully, hopefully people get inspired. Photography is such a wonderful thing, and you can make it exactly what you want to be, and have fun with it, and get a group of people and go out and shoot, or just people that inspire you, and get that, because it's so important to kind of feed it off of other people and learn off of other people, because we all have those little nuggets that they're going to change. Something you may sit through a 2-hour lecture, you may not learn a thing, but they'll say one little thing, and as you get better and better as a photographer, you get less of those one little things. And if you can pick up one little thing that puts you 1% higher, 2% higher in what you are, that's a huge amount at this point.
Well said. And I was going to remind everyone to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube. So for digital art demonstrations, these wonderful live Photoshop and photography focused live streams, live talks. Also, I post Photoshop Lightroom tutorials. YouTube, go to YouTube, Digital Art Drew. So either youtube.com/Digital Art Drew, or just search for Digital Art Drew. Subscribe, click the little notification bell, and you get notified when we go live again. And we'll for sure we'll have Travis back again.
Oh yeah,
Travis do some Photoshop or Lightroom.
Jump back and do some of the tutorials and show, because Lightroom was one of those wonderful things that I love jumping into, that I can really jump in and do so many different things. You can create virtual copies and try different things from black and white to color to different ways. And it's amazing what you can do in Lightroom in quick edits. And it's such with the new masking tools, it does stuff that it shouldn't do at this point. It's a really, really incredible piece of software.
Excellent. And just a reminder too, that if you're on Facebook, please join the Photoshop and Lightroom group. That's where we have these wonderful live events, and we celebrate the different milestones and have contests, and always have the updated news about Adobe special updates and new features coming out. So, and a lot of good sharing there. A lot of people share some wonderful photography, artwork, and people give some good constructive criticism. Yeah. And a big thank you to my moderators and admins who help me on a daily basis to keep it so that it is staying on focus and people are staying helpful. So thank you all.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, and we have a comment from Hannah saying it was a nice evening. Thank you, Travis.
Oh, thank you,
Andrew.
Yep. Wonderful, wonderful.
So yeah, thanks everyone for attending, and keep your eye out on the YouTube channel, Digital Art Drew. Don't forget. And thank you so much, Travis. It was really great.
Such a pleasure. Hopefully see you again soon.
Yeah, wonderful work. Thank you.